All right, today we're going to be taking a look at book of Matthew. Book of Matthew. I'm going to be checking out chapter 1 to the 18. Hallelujah. All right. So, let's jump right in. Have my first reader read Matthew 18, 1 through 5, please.
At the same time came the disciples unto Yahushua, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahushua called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. This is a awesome chapter, by the way. And it speaks to, as you just heard, it speaks to how we might enter into the kingdom of Elohim. So it's a very pivotal chapter. It's a very imperative chapter to understand. Amen. So first things first, the apostles, they're asking a question. They're asking a question in verse 1, and that question is, who will be the greatest in the kingdom of Elohim? And Yahushua, in grand Yah fashion, as he does, he didn't just answer, but he called a little child unto him and set him in the midst of them. And he tells them, except ye be converted. That means to turn and go away from wickedness. Turn and go the opposite way of iniquity. And become as little children. See, it's not good enough just to become converted, but you also have to become as little children. If you don't do this, you shall not enter into the kingdom of Hashemayim, or the kingdom of heaven. And who's ever able to do this the best will be the greatest in the kingdom. That's Yassin. So verses 2 through 5 actually answers the question, identifying being as a little child as the number one character trait required to enter into the kingdom. Therefore, we're going to take a look at, what it means to be like a little child, scripturally speaking. But before we do that, I want us to also consider that in Yochanan 3:3, Yahushua answered, speaking to Nicodemus, it says, Yahushua answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, that is, Father from above, he cannot see the kingdom of Elohim. So, I want you to, I pray you caught that, because if you're not fathered from above, i.e. born again, then you can't even see the kingdom. Did you catch that? Yeah. So this is what's required for you to even be able to see the kingdom, to be able to perceive the kingdom, to be able to understand the kingdom. You must be fathered from above. Once fathered from above, now you can see the kingdom, but that still doesn't get you in. Now you have to become converted and become as a little child. So we have to be fathered from above, and we have to become converted and become as little children if we're going to enter into the kingdom. Revelations 12:1 speaks of a great sign, a great wonder in heaven. And it speaks of a woman that's going to give birth. Now, ever since the Messiah came, folks have been getting fathered from above, and they've been, entering into the kingdom. But there's coming a time when when all of those folks who have entered in will be birthed into a nation as a whole. And it's not anything different than what we've seen with Israel. They went in just a handful of folks, into Mitzrayim. And over the course of time, they were built up into this large group of people until eventually Yah brought them forth, birthed them into a nation, and they went out into the wilderness, and they were a nation. They were a force to be reckoned with in the world. Amen. Mm-hmm. Whereas prior to that, they was just a bunch of oppressed slaves. And so Yah is doing this very same thing over again. In Revelations 12:1-2, it says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered." When we look at the example of Israel, and we can see, how it was, and we can have an idea of how it will be, because Yahuwah changeth not. And we can see that when Moshe was on the scene and he was plaguing Mitzrayim with all those plagues, it was really, really a rough time, but what came out of that, what was birthed from that, was the nation of Israel. And it was like that, with the greatest nation in the world during that time, but in the end time, it's gonna be like that on a worldwide scale. Where that just dealt with Mitzrayim. In the last days, it's gonna be on a worldwide scale. And so this woman is gonna give birth. 1 Thessalonians 5:3-4 speaks to this as well. It says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child." See, and this is what happened to Mitzrayim. Sudden destruction began to come upon them because of the plagues that Moshe and Aaron was bringing forth. And it was as travail upon a woman with a child. And eventually, that woman gave birth. And when they left, then all the travailing stopped. It says, "As travail upon a woman with a child, they shall not escape. But ye, brethren," those of us of the kingdom, "are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief." Even as Israel wasn't in darkness, they knew exactly everything that was going to happen, because they had Moshe and Aaron telling them, and Yah was telling them. So, 2 Kings 5:14 says, "Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of Elohim." And this is, I think his name was Lazarus, that had leprosy. Naaman the leper. Yeah, thank you. "Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of Elohim, and his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean." Hallelujah. So if we're to become as little children, then that means that our flesh need to be like a little child. That means our flesh need to be clean. Amen. Yep. Now, how do we get our flesh clean, spiritually speaking? Ephesians 5:26, it teaches us. It says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. And that's how we get, our skin clean, is by washing with the water of the word. Filtering everything we do through the word. It will sanctify us. It will cleanse us. Amen. Yeah. Luke 1:59, "And it came to pass that on the 8th day they came to circumcise the child." Now 8 represents new birth, new beginnings. And when we're from above, when we come to our new birth, our new beginning, we are to become circumcised too. It says, "And they called him Zacharias after the name of his father." But we're to be circumcised, but we're not to have circumcision of the flesh, but a circumcision of the heart. Romans 2:29 says, "But he is a Yahudim, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the Ruach, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of Elohim." Oh, yeah. Amen. So, if we're going to become as a little child, we need to be followed from above. We need to be clean with the word. We need to be circumcised of the heart. Amen. Oh, yeah. 1 Peter 2:2 says, as newborn babes, desire the milk of the word that ye may grow thereby. So now, we as newborn babes, here it is, we've been fathered from above, we done made ourselves clean, we done converted, and went our way, we done got cleaned up by the word. So now, we're a new babe, we're hungry, right? So as newborn babes, we should desire the sincere milk of the word. A lot of times these babes, they get fathered from above and they go run and they try to start eating meat. Or they start trying to eat bread. That's the wrong thing to do. Because, even though children are so cute and adorable and they can look like little adults if you dress them up as such, they are not. They are not, and there's a reason why they are not. They can't do what adults can do. They can't. Their systems don't function as adults function. So they have to grow into maturity and be strengthened before they can, do some of the things that adults can do. So as newborn babes in the Ruach, we are to desire the sincere milk of the word that we may grow thereby. And that sincere milk speaks to Torah. That's what he's speaking of here. It speaks to Torah. It speaks to the word of Elohim. Hebrews 5:13 says, for everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. And yes, we as babes, we're unskillful, and we must become skillful by desiring the sincere milk of the word that we can grow. Lamentations 4:4 teaches, it says, the tongue of the suckling child cleaveth to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them. So first thing we want to get under our belt is Torah. We want to understand the commandments and justices and statutes and ordinances of the Most High El that He has given for us to live by. Then after we get that, and we grow from that, because that's going to structure our life. It's going to cause us to do and not do certain things. It's going to give us that structure. We're going to be keeping His Moedim. We're going to be, doing things in accordance to Torah. And that's going to give us some structure, some parameters. Okay, and then after we get that up under our belt and we get used to that, then we can have some bread. And of course, our Messiah is the bread of life. So then we go to His commandments, words and sayings, and we begin to add them, to what we've learned from Torah. So we begin to get the fuller understanding of Torah. We begin to get the front and the back end. Amen. So this is how we can grow after being fathered from above, after becoming this little babes. Now, everyone that goes this route has to start the same way. They have to come in as babes. They have to be fathered from above, i.e. become a spiritual babe, and they have to grow from a babe into maturity. And they have to desire the sincere milk. Then they have to get on the bread. And in betwixt that time, there's a process of time, and it's like a journey, and so as kids do, they don't know no better. Babies do, they don't know no better. Is they may offend someone along the way, or they may get offended because they're young. They're easy to get their feelings hurt. You look at them wrong, sometimes they start crying, right? But our Messiah gives us an admonition. He says, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones, speaking of these little ones that have become as little children in the kingdom, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. In case you never seen a millstone, because I know we city folk. This is what a millstone looked like. So the Messiah was speaking about having one of these around your neck and being drowned in the depth of the sea. It would be better for that to happen than for you to offend one of His little ones. So for those of us who perceive ourselves as being matured in the faith, this is an admonition and an admonishment that we need to be careful not to offend these little ones. Amen. Verse 7 says, woe unto the world because of offenses. For it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offense cometh. You know, the world is going to offend those little ones of the kingdom. It's going to happen. But woe to the world, and woe to the man by whom the offense cometh. As verse 6 said, it would be better if a millstone was tied to his neck and that he was thrown into the sea. You know, so that's a pretty strong warning right there, is it not? You know, so word to the wise is sufficient, so we should take heed. Amen. You know, Matthew 8 says, wherefore if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into the everlasting fire. You know, so here it is. He's going on from offending one of these little ones, and he's saying, well, you know, if your hand or your foot offend, you cut it off. You know, and some people take this literally, and this is not meant to be taken literally. He's speaking spiritually. He doesn't want you to go and cut your literal hand off, nor do he want you to cut your literal foot or pluck your eye out. This is not what he's speaking of. Matthew 18:8 begins with the word wherefore. In the King James, it's translated as wherefore, but this isn't the best translation of the word day. This word wherefore is being translated as day, number 1161 in the Greek. Zohaites, the author of the Complete Word Study Dictionary, concludes that day in the Greek is used adversative and continuative. Adversative meaning but, or on the contrary, or on the other hand. You know, and so here it is. He's first talking about offending one of those little ones, but then he's talking about, you know, if you have a hand or foot or eye that's constantly doing these offenses. You know, now that's what he's speaking to. You know, but on the contrary or on the other hand, if thy hand or thy foot offend thee. You know, so here it is now. It should have been translated something like that. The continuative meaning and also or moreover, as used in verse 15. We see in verse 15, very same word is translated as moreover. It would have been better if that was translated moreover. The reason this is important is because this is where Yahushua changes focus. He's changing focus from dealing with people of the world, offending the little children of the kingdom, over to the leaders of the kingdom, offending little children of the kingdom or of the body of Messiah. So let us pay particular attention to the parts of the body that Yahushua calls out, for they are all parts of the they are all parts of the parts that normally lead the body and what it does. The hands leads the arms, the feet leads the legs, and the eyes lead the head. You know, so in verse 8 he says, wherefore if thy hand or foot offend thee, cut them off and cast them from thee. You know, and he said in verse 9, if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. You know, so if we take off the hand, eye, and foot, you know, if they offend thee, we're to cut them off. You know, now the hand speaks to the works. You know, it speaks to our works, speaks to our strength. You know, and so he's saying even if your ministers, even if the strength of you, you know, if it's offending, you got to cut it off. Or the leaders, the feet are the leaders. They take the body where it need to go. Even if they're not right, you got to cut it off. The eye speaks to the apostles. You know, the ones who have the understanding, the perception of things. Even if they offend, cut them off. You know, he's talking about as a whole, as a body, as a corporate body, not as an individual. He's saying it's better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, than to not get in at all. Amen. So I don't want nobody, running around cutting off hands and eyes and feet and trying to put something together like this. Talking about I did it, not cool. All right. Let me have my next reader read verses 10 through 14, please.
Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. For the Son of Man is come to save that which is lost. How think ye, if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, doeth he not leave the 99 and goeth into the mountains, and seeketh that which is gone astray? And if so be that he find it, verily I say unto you, he rejoiceth more of that sheep than the 99 which went not astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven, that one of these little ones should perish.
Hallelujah. All right, so verse 10 says, take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. What does he mean by despise? Well, the Greek word is kataphronio, number 2706, meaning to think against or disesteem. So he's saying, take heed that you don't think against or disesteem not one of these little ones. For I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. So we learn something there too, that those that are in the kingdom, at least, they have angels. Hallelujah. Yeah. Verse 11 said, for the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. And he seeketh that which is gone astray. This is why when he came, he said in Matthew 15:24, but he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So saying true to his word. He came to save that which was lost. He also was saying, Yochanan 10:16, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. And this is important to understand because he's seeking those who are lost, and it's speaking here to the house of Israel, and Yochanan 10:16 is speaking to the Gentiles because they truly were lost. They were without Elohim. They did not have his word. But on the other hand, I could say, what was that word? They. But contrary-wise, or on the other hand, they that had his word, that thought they knew, that felt they knew, or knew they knew, in some cases, but really didn't know, he didn't come for them. Because they had his word, they had the light. They wasn't in darkness, they just chose darkness. They didn't have to be in darkness, I put it that way, but they chose to be in darkness. And it's kind of like what Hosea 4:6 says, my children perish for lack of knowledge because they reject knowledge. I will reject them from being my priest. So this is exactly what happened with them. And when Yahushua came, they, put themselves forth as holy and as those who knew and those who had not need of a Savior. And so Yahshua left them to their own devices. But he was going after the lost. And those that was of the house of Yahudah, they were supposed to know who he was because they had everything they needed to know. And it's going to be like that when he returns. It's going to be like that in the last days. We have everything we need to know when the last days are upon us and when these things start to come down. We have everything that we need. Now, if we're going to be in the same boat as the Yahudah, if we don't get it, we won't have anybody to blame but ourselves. because we have the light, we have the word. So be warned. Get into your word. Read your word. Because that's what it's going to boil down to. And pray that for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Pray that your eyes be open. Verse 14 says, even so, it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. He doesn't want any of us to perish. And you have to understand that. You have to know and understand that. He doesn't want us to perish. And he's taken went to every length that we won't perish. So if we perish, it's only because of us. It's not because of him. And it just hurts my heart when I see people blame Yah, for their woes.
Right.
Right. And when it's really not his fault, it's their fault all along. All right, verse 15. Let me have my next reader read verses 15 through 17, please.
Moreover, if thy brother should trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall not hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican.
Okay, now I want you to remember what the subject was. Do not lose sight of the subject. The subject is still the kingdom of Elohim and offenses that take place within the kingdom of Elohim. Amen? So that is the subject. And we're still talking about offenses that, first he started out with offenses of the world against the kingdom, and now he's on offenses within the kingdom with the brethren of the kingdom. He started off with the leaders, and now he's going to just the lay person, if you would. He says, moreover, if thy brother, and that's they again, moreover, if thy brother, contrary-wise, but, on the other hand, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, so it's not the leader against the little child, it's just brother to brother, maybe 2 little children or 2 grown folks or whoever, within the kingdom. If thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. Simple enough. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. What does it mean, trespass? This word is hamartano, number 264. It means to miss the mark, to err, to be mistaken, especially morally, to offend, to miss or wander from the path of uprightness and honor. So it's saying, moreover, if thy brother shall miss the mark, if he err, if he be mistaken, if he miss or wander from the path of unrighteousness and dealing with you, dishonor you in some type of way. Okay, verse 16 said, but if he will, for you to go to him alone, but if he will not hear thee, then take thee 1 or 2 more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if that don't work, if he neglect to hear them, verse 17 says, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. Now, this passage gives us the protocol concerning offenses within the kingdom. Now we see the last part of that protocol is to go to the church. But before we deal with that, it's important to note that the issue at hand is not the intent. See, so many people the intent, it means a whole lot, but you can't get caught up on the intent when you've trespassed against someone, and they're disgruntled by it. Even if you didn't intend to do it, and they're disgruntled by it, you shouldn't get upset because they're upset. That's what I'm trying to get at. you know, and you shouldn't get upset because you didn't mean it, you know, and they're getting bent out of shape. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you know, you're trying to park next to me in this parking spot next to me, and you know, you hit my car. You know, now you didn't intend to do it, you know, but that still don't make me feel any better about, you know, my car being dented, right? You know, so, you know, once we talk about a resolve on that, you know, then maybe, you know, I'll be all right, you know, but, you know, and maybe I just got the car. Maybe it's the first day I had it, you know, and so, you know, I'm a little extra sensitive about it, you know what I mean? You know, but the point that I'm making is it's not the intent, you know, whether or not they you mean to trespass against them or not. It's just the fact that you did, you know, you need to take care of that, you know, and that's essentially what it's speaking of. You know, you go and tell them it's fall on, and then, you know, if they hear you, you know, then you won your brother, you know. So, you know, some people, you know, they think that they don't have an obligation because they didn't mean to do it, you know, but the obligation still remains. You know, I still want that dent out of my car. Oh, I forgive you, I'm cool, but I still want that dent out of my car. You know what I mean? You know, all that's well and good. You know, it's no hard feelings, but you are gonna take care of that, right? You know. So that's important too. Now, and if that doesn't work, then you go take it to the church. Now, what is meant by the church? You know, the church is comes from the word ecclesia. You know, ecclesia is number 1577 in the Greek, and it speaks to an assembly called out. It's a compound word made up of two Greek words, ek and kalin. You know, ek meaning out, and kalin meaning to call. So, it speaks to those who are called out. Now, I want you to understand that Yah could have used many other Greek words besides ecclesia to refer to his assembly, such as agora, number 58, panaguris, true gao, sustrepho, sulego, sunathrozo, oglopio, some bibazo, synagogue, episynagogue, herote, koinon, theasos, all meaning or including the concept of assembly in one way or another. But he didn't choose any of those. He chose ecclesia. And there's a reason why he chose ecclesia. The word ecclesia was understood during his day as a political term. It was not just an assembly, but the lawful assembly of a free Greek city, of all those of the rights of citizenship for the transaction of public affairs. This was coming from R.C. Trench, some of the New Testament. Now we have ecclesia from another resource. Speaks of it as an assembly of a regularly summoned political body. Now, this is the lexicon of Barr and Gingrich. Now, what is meant by political? Political means of or relating to the government or public affairs, and that's what this Yahshua's ecclesia was. It was the government for the kingdom of Elohim upon the earth. It was those who would take care of the public affairs. Again, ecclesia was throughout the Greek and Hellenistic areas always retained its reference to the assembly of the polis. In the ecclesia, every citizen has the right to speak and to propose matters for discussion. What is the polis? Polis speaks to a city-state, and a city-state is an independent state. You know, so the kingdom of Elohim was meant to be an independent state upon the earth. You know, even Yah's state upon the earth. You know, ecclesia speaks to an assembly of people convened at the public place of the council for the purpose of deliberating, and it speaks to a council. You know, now council is not to be confused with counsel, meaning to advise. Council was oh, okay. I didn't know it was going to do that. Forgot. Council is an assembly of men summoned or convened for consultation, deliberation, and advice, such as you see below. Also, for the sake of clarity, deliberation means to carefully consider, mutual discussion and examination of the reasons for and against a measure, as the deliberations of a legislative body or council. This is what the ecclesia was put together for. This is what it was about. If you want to see an example of this council in action, then just read Acts 15, because that's what that whole chapter is about. Let me have my next reader read verses 18 through 20 of Matthew 18.
Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say unto you, that if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 and 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them.
Hallelujah. Again, let us not lose sight of the subject. This passage carries forward from the thought from verse 17. Hence, they also are in reference, these verses are also in reference to the church, that is the ecclesia, meaning the kingdom's legislative body or council upon the earth. Therefore, it deals with the authority of the ecclesia, which is to bind or loose people from the kingdom. I know that people, make a whole nother ministry out of this passage, but the truth of the matter is, it speaks to Yah's ecclesia. He's saying, verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind. Who is he speaking to? Who is ye? He's speaking to his apostles that did make up his ecclesia. That's who he's speaking to, and that's who he's meaning when he says that if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything, not Joe and Tom, over off in Never Everland, only Joe and Tom that's within the kingdom of Elohim, that's in the ecclesia. And they have the ability to bind and to loose. Now it's not speaking about binding spirits and loosing spirits. It's talking about binding and loosing in and out of the kingdom of Elohim. Quite literally having your name written or erased from the book of life, from the Lamb's book of life. And verses 19 and 20 is teaching us that it matters not the size of the ecclesia, even if it's 2 to 3 members in the ecclesia. Whomever they bind or loose in the earth is bound or loosed in the heavens. And that's what that passage is speaking to. I just stress that because it's a lot of other stuff that goes on concerning that. Selah. Let me have my next reader read verses 21 through 27, please.
Then came Peter to him and said, Adonai, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times. Yahushua said unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which will take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and his children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Adonai, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the Adonai of the servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt.
Hallelujah. Okay. So, he was starting to get the picture in his head, you know. And so he come to him and he says, you know, okay, well, I understand that, and I know it's a great offense, you know, not to offend my brother, you know, but how many times do I have to forgive this guy? You know, and so he asks, you know, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? 7 times? Because I'm counting. You know, but the Messiah says, not until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Count that. You know, and so he gives this parable, you know, and he gives this parable about, you know, someone owing, and we all owe, amen, because we've all sinned, and the wages of sin is what? Death. Absolutely. So we all owe, you know, and he's saying, you know, have patience with me. I'll pay thee all. And it says that Adonai, that servant, was moved. He was moved with compassion, and he loosed him and forgave him the debt. Hallelujah. You know, verses 18 through 35 for the second half of the parable. The next reader, please.
But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And the fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. But he would not, but went and cast him into prison, till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Adonai all that was done. Then his Adonai, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desiredst me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And as Adonai was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses.
Hallelujah. Thank you. So here it is. We see the same servant went out, you know, and, you know, like they say, the crap rolls downhill, you know. So he goes and finds, you know, someone who owed him, you know. He's probably figuring, well, I can't pay my debts because I have people who owe me. So he goes to the guy that owes him, you know, and he only owed him 100 pence, and he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, you know, and said, pay me that thou owest, you know. And, you know, his servant, he fell down at his feet and he besought him, and he said, have patience with me and I will pay thee all. The exact same words that he used towards his Lord, right? You know, and this should have been reminiscent of him just doing the same thing, but it says he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. You know, and so the word got back to his Lord, his Adonai, and his Adonai was upset with him. And so he had a change of heart, you know, and made him, you know, well, you know, you're going to have to pay me, you know. He had a change of heart, made him pay him. So he ended up following through with what he decided, what he was going to do from the beginning, you know, because he says, shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? You know, and it says that Adonai was wroth and delivered him to the tormentors till he should pay all that was due to him. You know, now the Messiah tells us, you know, our admonition, our warning is, so likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses. You know, so we have to forgive if we want to be forgiven. That's even in our Adonai's prayer, his model of prayer that he gave us, you know. Forgive us as we forgive those that trespass against us. Yeah. You know, don't forget that. You know, we pray that prayer, but we pray for forgiveness as we forgive. Yes. If you don't forgive, then you won't be forgiven. You know, the Messiah taught this likewise in chapter 7, you know, of Matthew. Verses 1 and 2 says, "Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again." And this parable, you know, just speaks to that beautifully. You know, is that in a nutshell. The way that this wicked servant judged was the same way that was judged upon him. You know, the measure that he meted out was the same measure that was given to him. You know, and this is what the Heavenly Father is going to do for us. You know, and I've ran across people who claim to be believers and tell me how they can't forgive someone. You know, and because that someone has done some pretty horrible and ugly things, and I can understand, you know, that, you know, folks do ugly things, but you have to forgive them not for their sake, but for yours. You know, you have to forgive them. You have to find it in your heart to forgive them. You know, otherwise you won't be forgiven. You know, so if you can't forgive them, you might as well hang up this kingdom thing. That's real. You might as well hang up this kingdom thing, because you can't be forgiven if you don't forgive. You know, so I really encourage you. You know, if someone's done something to you, and you know you holding grudges, that you let that go, not for their sake, but for yours. You know, and I'm gonna tell you something else. You know, on a health tip, you know, there's no greater cancer seed than hate. You know, you want cancer? Hate somebody. You know. That's all I have for you. Pray it was a blessing.